When most people say, I'm in fear, what they really mean is, I don't want to be accountable for the outcome of my choice. That's not fear, that's avoidance. And that's what this week's podcast is about. Real fear, that's fight or flight. A bear charges or someone breaks into your home, your body kicks in, clean, efficient, survival in motion. Everything else that we call fear, manufactured. It's emotion masquerading as truth or reality. It's a smokescreen to hide from responsibility. When you're in emotion, you are out of reality. Let's get started. Good morning and welcome to another episode of Iconic Freedom, the Formula. We are setting a standard for accountability and responsibility. The ownership of your choices, every choice that you make, and the accountability is the ownership of the outcome and everything that follows. Let each care for self, and all will be cared for. You see it on my different social media pages all the time, my periodic chart, which, that's a formula to me, right? That's when you look at those elements and you see that if you pull certain elements together, they create harmony. And if you pull other elements together, they can create disharmony. And I'm encouraging you to pull the elements of choice, responsibility, and accountability together in order to help form and shape your own standards for your journey in this life. And hopefully that's going to be helpful to you. I've got a clip from this gentleman that I want to play because, and it does have a video if you're watching on Rumble or YouTube. But what's really great about it is I like how it dissects and it drills down some discussion about emotion, because that has a lot to do with fear. And we'll talk about all that shenanigans, but I'm going to start our podcast basically with that. So here we go.
As an infant, you didn't have any knowledge of what you needed. You didn't understand hunger. You didn't understand cold or heat or any of that. When you needed something, you experienced that as anxiety. You would feel an increase in alertness if you had to use the bathroom. You would feel an increase in alertness if you were hungry. And you would vocalize. You would cry out. You would act agitated. You might coo. You might do a number of different things. And then your caregiver, whoever that might have been, would respond to that. So this is actually really important to understand that a baby, when you were a baby and when I was a baby, we didn't have any sense of the outside world except that it responded to our acts of anxiety, essentially. All developmental psychologists agree that babies lack the ability to make cognitive sense of the outside world. But in this feeling of anxiety and registering one's own internal state and then crying out to the outside world, either through crying or subtle vocalizations or even just cooing, making some noise, we start to develop a relationship with the outside world in which our internal states, our shifts in anxiety, start to drive requests, and people come and respond to those requests.
Okay, so I don't know if you know Andrew Haberman. He's got a lot of videos online, and I really like a lot of his stuff. I don't agree with all of it, and he's very forensic and scientific in his approach, which of course I love. So yeah, if you get a chance, check out his stuff. Go down the rabbit hole. But okay, so here, let's defining this core idea. Babies don't yet have that cognitive ability, as he said, to make sense of the outside world. So they live in pure emotion, right? Signals of hunger and fatigue and discomfort. Okay, all that's natural. But here's where things go wrong. When parents project onto a child their own personifications, this is what you desire. This is what you dream. This is what you want. That projection then robs the child of developing its own internal authority. The authority to interpret the signals to take action on its own behalf. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I need a rest, I don't want to be around you, I don't like what's happening, I don't want to participate, I like this, not that, I like you, not that person. So every time a parent imposes their will on a child, they stunt that child's development. They stunt their growth. And if you create a dependency, teaching the child that the outside world will always fix things instead of teaching self-reliance, self-evaluation, and self-correction, then all authority will become external. Nobody's coming to save you. I think you've heard that. And what's funny is that people grow up in this fantasy that someone's going to come and save them. And they keep watching all these movies and cartoons of people saving whoever's in distress. That's not how it works. You have to have your own self-reliance and self-evaluation, self-correction. You have to be able to do these things on your own. That others might participate to assist you is merely a byproduct of whatever the circumstance is. But you alone must be able to try to effort that on your own. And believe me, age does not matter. You can be 15 years old, you can be 80 years old. If you never learned to take care of yourself by developing responsibility and accountability, you will always feel like there's something missing. And there is. I was telling my friend Jenny yesterday that you have to own everything. Everything you do and say is a choice, and you have to take ownership of it. If you did it, it's an action. It's yours. If you said it, you said it. It came out of your mouth. It's yours. You have to take complete, full ownership of everything. I guarantee you that if you do this, your life will change on a dime. And if everyone, think of this, of the billions of people in this world, if everyone all of a sudden decided, starting this moment right now, I am going to have personal responsibility and accountability for every choice I make and everything and every accountability and everything that comes out of my mouth, all actions, all words and deeds, and be accountable for all those things. And in the endeavor, try not to do harm to others. I'm saying to you now, life will change on a dime. In a New York minute, in a Thanos snap of a finger, boom. It's all going to change. Here's your challenge, though. You have to own it all. You have to own the stuff from the past. You have to own the stuff for the present. And you're going to have to own it all in the future. Listen, you're not going to get away with it. I know people want to think that they're going to cheat it all, but they won't. It will catch up to you eventually, and you will pay the bill. That's just how it works. So let's go back to this. So here's what follows. Life becomes filled with disharmony. What's the reason? Because when you don't own your choices, you still need to get what you want, right? So you resort to manipulation. You resort to control. You start scamming yourself and scamming others. And that becomes your survival system. And when people don't respond the way you want, you become extreme. Like you literally, your vocal hysterics become extreme. Listen, go on to, any of the social media right now, X and Truth and TikTok and Instagram, you will see it. There are clips and videos of people losing their minds because they have not developed any of these cognitive abilities. And so what are they doing? They're out there. You think of them, they are undeveloped in the species because they have no cognitive ability to differentiate what belongs to them to take care of. And so they don't know how to be responsible and accountable. So then they go off the rails. And they're thinking that, society has to conform to them. It's like, no, that's not really how it works. So And of course, now that we've talked about some of that, that becomes today's forensic breakdown for the podcast, which is fear. Fear is a smokescreen. It's the scam that we run on ourselves to avoid reality. The reality that responsibility and accountability are unavoidable. The reality that without them, we fall back into manipulation and control. It's a game you're playing with yourself. Listen, you're free to do it. I mean, I'm not going to stop you. I was telling Jenny yesterday, no law stopped a man from doing that which he was hell-bent on doing. I mean, I really don't. I don't care what law you write. If you want to run the red light, you're going to run the red light. Here's the crux of it all, though. Here's reality. If you do, just know there are a multiplicity of outcomes that could occur, and you will be responsible for them. You're responsible for the choice and the outcomes and everything that follows. All right, so let's get forensic. Fear, it's not a protection. It's an avoidance. And I've seen people, they can stay stuck in avoidance their entire life. Or they could have, built that simple habit of just owning every choice and every outcome and trusting in themselves that, no matter what happens, whatever follows, you can handle it. And if you don't think you can handle it, well, then you're not going to do that, right? You're not going to make that choice. And to be honest, this is not about perfection. So it's not that you're going to make a perfect choice. There is no such thing as the perfect choice. There's the things that resonate and are harmonious with your life. But that does not mean that it's perfect for everyone else's life. It does not mean that it's perfect beyond this moment in time. It's in this moment, in this time, you make the choice. And if it resonates and you've got vibes from it that are, what you want in life, and it's harmonizing, that's when you know this is correct for me. So you have to trust yourself to act, not freeze up, but to act. Control is like that outward symptom of the inward fear. And, after a while, listen, if you are doing this stuff the way I've been doing this stuff for decades now, when you're in front of people and they start doing certain behaviors, your mind is like a decoder ring. You totally get it, that this person is so in trying to control everything. It's just like, oh, okay, so they're under a delusion of fear because of whatever reason, but that's, okay, I get it. So then I step back. I don't know what you do, but I step back because, listen, I don't want you in a foxhole with me. If your fear isn't about your life being in danger and we need to get the hell out of Dodge, I don't want to be around you with whatever your fear is. Because that fear is delusional. It's made up, right? It's a scam on yourself, and it's an excuse to manipulate. And manipulation is always about what? Your self-interest. Bending others to what you want. That's what that is all about. We've talked about this before. It's part of the understanding of the formula. Your self-interest, your motivation is going to drive your choices. That's what a baby does. A baby has self-interest. It has motivation to get fed, to be held, to, whatever, to poop, whatever, to pee. It has to do its thing. It doesn't know that that's what's going on, but that's the mechanics of what's going on. Now, if you know that as a teenager, or you teach that to your teenager and your children, do you know how far ahead in the game they're going to be at being able to enjoy their life? You can hand someone all of these steps, the workflow, the knowledge, but you cannot control whether or not they learn or apply it. And I will tell you, control is a scam that you're just going to run it on yourself. Reality is not going to vanish because you refuse to face it. It's waiting in the wings like a Broadway show. It's just waiting for the moment that it knows to present another opportunity, another experience for you to get it. It's going to whisper in your ear. It's going to slap you across the face. It's going to knock you upside the head. And it's going to keep doing that until you get it. Remember, when you are in emotion, you're out of reality. When you're in reality, you're out of excuses. When you're in reality, you're out of excuses. Because when you stand in reality, you stop deflecting, you stop distracting, you stop avoiding, you stop manipulating, you stop controlling. You face what is. You act on your own behalf. And I'm telling you, without this foundation of responsibility and accountability, there is no peace. There are only roadblocks, and those roadblocks, I will say, I've watched it happen in my own life and others. They will only grow larger the longer you run from them, the longer you try to, get around them or crawl over them. And listen, this doesn't have to, this isn't just, I'm observing this or I'm not observing this. This is what creates disease in your body. Because your body is absorbing all of this crap, frankly. And so, if you're like me, if you're 60 years old and older, you've been doing this your whole life. Now, listen, I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed. I got on a path that's not going to send me down that road. But I've watched a lot of people in life who don't own their stuff develop all sorts of cancer, all sorts of disease. And you look at celebrities and you're like, how did they go from that to this? Here's why. Own your choices. Every single one. Own your outcomes. Every single one. Let's talk just a little bit about the mechanics of fear. How do you know when fear is running the show? Fear is refusal to see what is. So in reality, you comprehend. In emotion, you collapse into your feelings. And, when you stop comprehending, you stop developing. Fear drives control, right? Rules, micromanagement, manipulation, and when people can't control, then they start to panic and they freak out. Because they know deep down, no control means accountability. If I can't control you, now I got to be accountable for whatever happens. You know what? If you just learn the accountability, then you don't care. Because whatever comes your way, you're going to figure it out. That terrifies people that are trying to control everything. The paint over the crack. So I like this imagery, right? Fear is painting over a crack in the wall instead of fixing the foundation. It just hides the problem until reality splits it wide open. I've been doing work on the house, so maybe I have these things in my head. But, control as a smokescreen, it's like this costume that fear wears. Parents over-controlling their kids, really, fear of failure or judgment. Because, if you haven't taught your children these qualities and, they're not doing well in life, having a lot of problems, yeah, you're responsible. It's like, I'm sorry. I know people want to say, it's not the parents' fault. No, it is. Because you did not give your child the tools they needed to make the decisions that were going to bring success, harmony to their life. Government does all kinds of imposing of restrictions because they fear losing power. But they want to dress it up like safety. Oh, this just is like one of the most insidious, disgusting, disgraceful things that government and politicians do. For your safety, we're doing this. Listen, that is not the case. You ought be free to do whatever you want in this life with no harm to others. And if you do, there's a law to provide a consequence for having done it. But this insidiousness of the Minority Report, where we're going to, we have laws about speed and, how fast you can go down. This is ridiculous. Because it's like, what difference does it make? I see people speed all the time and the police let it go on. Why? Because that's the flow of traffic. So they don't care that everybody's going 75 into 65. It's a game, folks. It's a sham and it's a scam. And think of this, that if you have a partner that's micromanaging, the fear of abandonment will mask as caring. That they care about you. That's why they need to know where you are every moment of every day. That they got to look at your phone. They got to see what you're doing. It's like, but it's all because they're playing a game. They're in fear that, of abandonment or whatever it is. I don't really know. But I will tell you this. Control and manipulation, they will never deliver peace to you. They will never give you the harmonious life that you want. It will only deepen the fear. It will only deepen the anxiety because it pushes you further and further from, everyone say it with me, reality. So facing reality versus avoiding it is that portion of this topic, right? I wrote that down because I think this is important, right? And we'll see. But reality demands accountability. That's all there is to it. It's nature. It's going to do it regardless. But that's the reason, not the why, but that is the reason that people fear it. Because the reality will not bend. It will not bend to your will. You have no control over reality. All you have is observation and how you will interact with the observation and the reality. When you fear reality, you hand over your freedom to the illusion of control. I'm going to say it again. This is a truth. When you fear reality, you hand over your freedom to the illusion of control. So, how do you face reality? You accept what is before you. You respond and to whatever your choices created. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're the one that caused the accident that you just saw, but you have to respond to the fact that you are standing on the corner. You put yourself in that moment. It's like you're not going to avoid it. But I'm telling you, it's just the most remarkable thing is that once you get this, I tell you, all the cards fall into place. And you have to trust yourself that you will handle the outcome. Avoiding reality, that just means you're just going to live in emotion. You're just going to be a babbling child, babbling baby the rest of your life. And anytime people don't conform to your will, your whim, your needs, your desires, you're going to start screaming. And you're going to get louder and louder and louder in hopes that somebody is going to listen. Often now you'll see a lot of videos where people aren't listening. They don't really care. They're just arresting you. And they're putting you in the clink, or they need to put you in an insane asylum because you're insane, and you can't manage your life. But, you live in emotion, you build smoke screens out of control and manipulation, and you pretend that outcomes are someone else's fault. One path will lead to comprehension, and then the other will lead to chaos. Okay, so take inventory. That's the thing that I did. Where in your life are you clinging to control because you're afraid to face the reality? That relationship that you're trying to fix by controlling the other person instead of just admitting it's over. That's okay. All relationships end. Or the work that you might be, or the people at work that you're micromanaging. Not because it helps, because you're scared to own whatever the outcome is. Listen, if people don't do their job, there's a mechanism to manage that, right? You write them up, you get them out. If they are doing their job, then you give them more freedom, more responsibility in that freedom. Do you want to take on another project? What would you like to do? That decision that you keep putting off, saying, I don't know, when deep down you do know, but you don't want to be accountable. When a person says, I don't know, that's a lie. Just your decoder ring. I don't know. That's a lie. They do know. They just haven't sat with it for a moment to be able to express it. But to say, I don't know, is a way to avoid. Control is always avoidance. And I'm telling you again, reality is always waiting in the wings for their downbeat, their entrance. It's going to happen. So embrace the reality, develop the responsibility and the accountability. Don't harm yourself or others. And I guarantee you, in a New York minute, in a Thanos snap, your life is going to change. Here's a couple of thoughts to leave you with. Fear is not protection. It's avoidance. Control is not power. It's a smokescreen. Reality doesn't bend to fear. It simply waits. Fear refuses reality. Control will pretend to replace it, and courage accepts it, and it acts anyway. Listen, you can be in fear, but unless it's fear for your life, that's the fight or the flight. That's how you know. Is this fight or flight? Is my life in such danger that I need to either act in my defense, grab my weapon, or I need to the flight, I need to flee and, save myself for another day because I don't have the ability to do that right now. That's what the fear is. Everything else is just you scamming yourself. And it all goes back to when you were a little wee one and you were laying there as a baby making all kinds of noise, trying to get people's attention, and they gave you, at the time, they would keep trying. That's what new mothers do, right? Well, you give them a pacifier. That doesn't work. You feed them. That doesn't work. You hold them. That works. And then you start to learn these are the patterns. And as your child grows up, you teach them when they start having emotions, what is it that you need? What is it that you want? And they will tell you. Now, if you want to sit there and deny your child's internal authority, that's up to you. But just know there will be a bill, there will be a price to pay. And maybe you won't be around to see it, but is that really what you want to unleash into an unsuspecting society? Maybe not. Okay, we are at the end of another podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. Hey, hit that like button if you would. Share it with your family and friends. You never know how it might help them in their endeavor. I am on X and Truth Social and Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And until next time, let each care for self and all will be cared for.